Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our webinar where we'll explore practical ways to modernize asset management by unifying data, documents, and workflows on Microsoft's Power Platform. I'm Destiny, account manager at Nexinite, and I'll be your host today. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we dive into the exciting content we have prepared, here are some quick housekeeping items. This webinar is going to be recorded. We will email the recording afterwards, so feel free to share it with the colleagues who couldn't attend today. The presentation will run about 45 minutes, followed by a Q&A at the end. And we do encourage questions, so please type them into the chat anytime. We'll address them near the end of the presentation. You can also raise your hand, and I can take you off of mute so that you can ask your question verbally. Now, let me introduce our esteemed presenters. From Silicon Valley Clean Water, we are joined by Vishwa, Project Manager and Business Analyst, and Chathu, Senior Engineer, both bringing hands-on experience managing complex infrastructure programs. Representing Nexinite, we have Senior Managing Partner Ken, who will share how our team implemented an integrated equipment information management system, aka EAMS, on Microsoft Power Platform, leveraging Power Automate, model-driven apps, and Power BI to create a single source of truth for asset information and related workflows. Together, they'll walk through SVCW's transformation, highlight lessons learned, and show how an integrated Microsoft native approach can reduce silos, improve collaboration, and deliver real-time visibility across asset lifecycles. With that, I will hand it off to our presenters.
Welcome, everybody online that have joined us. Just wanted to introduce you guys to Silicon Valley Clean Water. We are a small wastewater treatment plant located in Redwood City, California. And we treat influent for 4 of our member agencies, which is Redwood City, San Carlos, Menlo Park, and West Bay Sanitary District. We were built originally in 1979, and we are about 30 minutes away from San Francisco City, south of San Francisco City.
Yeah, this is a photo or aerial of the treatment plant. I think the takeaway here was going to be that it's a very a compact process area. The whole plant is contained. Most of the plant is contained in one structure. So a lot of equipment and very compact, very not a lot of clearances, not a lot of redundancy. So it's very important to have equipment online because we don't have the option to have a lot of redundant equipment because of the limited real estate. Going over to the general stats of the treatment plant. Average daily flows about 12 mgd. I think, as Vishwa mentioned, we have about 220,000 residents in the 4 member entities that we serve. 84 highly motivated employees. Everyone's willing to help all the time at SVCW, which is great. And then we do about $350 million in CIP. We have it planned for the next 10 years. So that kind of gives you an idea about how much assets or the equipment are being replaced at the treatment plant as we move forward in the next 10 years.
All right. So talking about how we got to EAMS and our equipment information management system, looking at where we started from in our early days of how we were capturing our data and using paper and pencil and keeping records of equipment and documents were all, stored everywhere. Yeah, all over the place, right? And then eventually we people transition into spreadsheets, and then if you have used spreadsheets and keeping manual spreadsheets all over the place and how painful that is. And then eventually, taking all that data and then evolving, well, let's put that in USB drives and then make it accessible to people. But then there was so many USB drives all over the place, right? And then eventually going into trying to do different systems. And I know a lot of people probably have done that also. And we went through a few iterations of different off-the-shelf systems. And then I let Ken speak a little bit more on that one.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, you guys were using Infor prior to Great Plains, which had all these modules for asset management, equipment management. And one of the biggest problems we worked with SVCW on was they had a very large program a few years ago called the Rescue Program, where we were helping with document controls, etc. Really was where the genesis of this discussion started. Was we had 4 or 5 different contractors submitting spreadsheets with asset tags and links to documents that were sourced out elsewhere. And how they were, how Vishwa was going to handle that with onboarding into his current asset management system. It became a very difficult process. Just managing versions. As we all know, versions are really easy to lose track of when documents are being emailed around to multiple people.
Yeah, there was so much going back and forward, and you lose track. And especially if you have a contractor that has multiple people working, team members working on a document, and you don't know which copy you got, and then you're trying to load data, and then you're going back. Okay, we have mistakes here, and then it was really frustrating.
Yes, for sure.
This is kind of a typical what happens in a typical software package or asset management story. We start the asset management over time. We're saying, okay, we need to create equipment register and track PMs and corrective maintenance. And then later on, we decide, okay, we need to bring in documents, O&M manuals, the as-built drawings, submittals. So we bring in a different document management system that's being developed by a different developer. And then we slap on spare parts management tools to it, so forth. So next thing we know, we have 10 different software packages that needs to be managed. They have different licenses, and they don't always talk to each other well. So we need to come up with creative ways to open up communication between different packages, and that makes the management part of the software platforms very difficult. They break once when they get updated. That needs to be fixed. So it becomes a whole effort by itself just to manage different platforms, and then have to make sure that the different applications talk to each other.
I was going to say exactly right. I mean, you can see illustrated in this diagram here the amount of integrations that need to stay in sync across those various systems. And so that for a small team, smaller agencies, it would be very difficult to do to stay on top of that all the time. And so working with Chathu and Vishwa, we kind of level set and took a different approach to how we were going to integrate with systems, right? So one of the things that SVCW has access to, most organizations we work with has access to, is the Microsoft Office 365 suite, which includes a product called the Power Platform, right? And that is an enterprise class platform that allows you to quickly build relational databases and applications on top of that relational database with a whole bunch of connectors for integrating to other solutions. So SVCW took a very centralized data approach from those source systems, brought it into a single database, and then built an application around that data. Vishwa, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Exactly what you said. I mean, from going from siloed, applications to a centralized data, where we could do everything in one place, kind of like our idea for one-stop shop, right?
Yep.
And from, all the chaos that we had before, going to more of a controlled environment where we can upload equipment and then attach all documents to it in one place and make it visible and available to all our users.
It might sound incremental at face value, but the opportunities that it opens up, having central information is I would say huge. You can do a variety of data analysis, or pivot this, leverage this information into different user experiences that I'm sure we'll go into in a little bit here.
Yeah, so that's where we ended up with, was a model-driven application built on the Microsoft Power Platform, integrated with SharePoint, integrated with their ERP system, which at the time was Great Plains. And we're bringing financials, documents, asset records, work orders, kind of all centralized into this platform. Some of the lessons learned, and we're going to go into a live demo here at the end, so we can get into showing some of those mechanics. But lessons learned from this was very, very interesting, right? Designed for the long term, right? Kind of create the dream session of what would the nice to haves be, and what would it take to get those nice to haves, right? So really, really think long term on starting an implementation like this. Start with a data model, right? Develop your data model first, and the hierarchy of your relational database. I think creating a taxonomy like SVCW had done with their asset tag structure and the segments within really unlocked so much value that you can't garner in a spreadsheet, right? So I think the data model design is a big win. Yeah, and then deliver an application that kind of maps to the end user's model in their head, right? So familiar, functional, easy, not a lot of menu items, not a ton of choices to confuse users by. Really scope it to what it is they need on a day-to-day, something we call purpose-built solutions, right? So it's not difficult to adopt and onboard for the organization.
Yeah, so this is some of the benefits we've experienced through the centralized availability of data, and also the big thing for us as a capital project manager for my group is to be able to track the development of the equipment register, gathering all the information through submittals, populating the equipment register, and seeing the status. Where are we in the life cycle of the project? Have all the information been gathered? To being able to track it, to see if we are progressing with respect to where the project is at. It's very useful. This is something, without this tool, it kind of falls by the wayside, and kind of we try to pick it up at the end of the project, and some people that you worked on the project has retired or left, or moved on to other projects. It becomes really challenging to try to start this effort at the end of the project. So this is very useful to have a unified platform to track the projects, and then also utilize the information that we have already, so we don't have to keep repeating or keep entering the same data multiple times. And we benefited it. So with this many assets coming in, we only have one FTE that's managing the whole process, which is, I think, for a public agency, I think that's a very good example of providing really good value to the ratepayer.
Yeah, it creates a great workflow from when the equipment and documents and data is initiated and all the way up to when we have it make it available to our end users, right?
Again, I'm a big fan of having centralized data and then being able to utilize it in different ways. So this is another example of that in our platform. We have one equipment register that lives in the Microsoft Dataverse, and then we utilize that in three different user experiences. And Ken, correct me if I'm using the wrong terms here. But yeah, so we have the project administration and control overview. It's like our project management platform. where we bring in the information and we use it during we develop the information during planning, design, construction, and then we populate that information during construction and startup. And then we go into all that gathered information, such as the spare parts information, the PM records, the CM records, throughout the life cycle. So that's the biggest time period, the equipment life cycle, typically 10 to 20 years, maybe even more, through the equipment information management system. And then throughout this period, using the AP Copilot tool, we're able to track how much money we spend on PM, so spare parts on a typical equipment, because everything's tagged against that equipment location tag. So we're able to develop reports, help management make decisions based on data. I think that's a big win.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, because that centralized, these applications, all three of these applications are applications that SVCW built out and developed. They're all related, right? So that workflow is captured at inception with the start of the project all the way through the end of the life cycle, right? And then some of that may end up with finance, some of that may end up with records keeping. We're tracking that kind of all the way through.
Yeah, for fellow project managers in the group, I think my advice is to start the process early, start gathering that information in design, don't wait for construction. Things tend to move really fast in construction. Next thing you know, you're in the middle of startup. So I would highly recommend to start developing those equipment location tags early. You don't have all the information available, but you have enough information to start the equipment register and then track it against the project to make sure that you're gathering and populating that equipment register as you move forward. And this is something we do that really helps to even realize more opportunities as we move forward. So we have the equipment location tag in the equipment register. We bring it into the PNIDs really early in the design. So by 60% design completion, we have a complete set of equipment register and those equipment location tags available in the PNIDs. And as you can see, they also make it all the way into SCADA programming. So the integrators use those tags to develop different SCADA platforms and PLC programming, and that opens up even more possibilities that we are playing with right now. But in terms of equipment health monitoring or process optimization, seeing how the process is working. So having that location tag throughout really helps us to gather information and do all sorts of data analysis. Another part is, being able to access the data pretty easily. When a mechanic on their day-to-day, they don't have time to look through a 1,000-page O&M manual to find out what they need to be doing on a 12-month PM. So we break them up into different PMs by frequency, and all they have to do is just type in the equipment location tag, and the available documents show up on the right-hand side, and they can, within seconds, they are able to pull out the procedure that they have to do on that piece of equipment. Having thousands and thousands of equipment, this makes it really efficient throughout the life cycle. So think about saving, let's say, let's give it a very little time, 30 minutes on a PM, but over 30 years, that's a lot of time savings that we could realize by having this information readily available.
Excellent. Yeah.
With these, our goal was, just when we did this project was, as Chathu was explaining, we had all of these documents initially all over the place. I mean, they were in SharePoint, they were, on people's desktops and printed copies and thumb drives and everything. So that was a big undertaking initially for us to get all of that uploaded and created, stored in a central database and then associated it to each equipment as we bring it in. And now we have a workflow that helps us to associate as we are bringing equipment in and associate documents to it. So it helps us, um, when people are looking for documents and doing maintenance on it, it helps them to get to it faster. It reduces a lot of the equipment downtime. Um, it helps us to streamline a lot of these processes where, we don't need additional staff time to do a lot of the looking around for documents. And then also it decreases like the life cycle cost, right, for equipment.
For sure. I mean, really, when you look at the tool, and we'll be able to demonstrate this here in just a minute, it's a big query tool on data, right?
Right.
So you pull up a record, it's querying all the relational data that's in the system that's contextually related to that record. And I think that speeds up a lot of processes and has an opportunity to create efficiencies.
Yeah, and documents are, available. It could be one document is associated to multiple equipment because it applies to multiple equipment, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to just jump into the live demo here. I think, Destiny, if I'm wrong, folks can ask questions as we're going through. That's how we as a team here prefer it. We like to engage. So if you see anything you have questions about, please feel free to chime in and we'll address them as we're kind of going through. As I had mentioned at the beginning of the presentation with Vishwa, this is all built on their Microsoft environment, right? This is not hosted by any third-party service other than Microsoft and the tenant that they have with them. So, all this data collection and organization and structure they're kind of putting together, it's theirs, right? And they can use it and service it anywhere they want to without having to go through a third party. And I think that's something we hear a lot from agencies is they want to control and own and manage their data and not be relegated to a third party to go get that information. So Microsoft has created some incredible tools for businesses within the Office 365 platform. This is one of them. This is called a model-driven app. It's built on Power Platform. It is called a model-driven app because it's based on a data model that you create, and then you build an application around that data model. So I'm just going to kind of jump through here, show some of these records, show some of these relationships and reports. And Vishwa, Chathu, you guys know how it goes. Just jump in anytime you want here. Starting with equipment, if we come into these menu items, they should be familiar to a lot of users from the get-go, right? It looks like a spreadsheet. It has columns and rows. These columns are filterable based on the category values that they maintain, right? So if I want to filter on a value, I can say it contains XYZ and do that search. If I open one of these records here, right, you see we have a few tabs across the top, the asset itself or the equipment asset itself, and then the equipment details, right? So the asset tag, alternate tag ID if needed, description, and then some date values here. As we also mentioned, we do have a SharePoint library repository set up that is integrated to this application at the application layer, right? So notice we didn't have to go follow a link or a URL that's in a field in the record. SharePoint and this application are pretty much one and the same, right? So I can not only open it, I can download it from here. I can view details of this document. I can look at the version history of this document right from here. If I need to add a document to this record, right, I can browse for a file, open that, hit next, classify that document and what it is, right? So providing those metadata values that are sorely missing in most libraries, whether it's a manual, a drawing, etc. I'm not going to upload that or Vishwa will kill me. So we're going to go back here across the top. So we have the equipment segments, right, which are basically the definitions, the logical definitions of each segment of the asset tag. We think it's a helpful little utility for onboarding new users, right? So a way for them to familiarize themselves with those values and what they mean. Work orders. Vishwa, you probably want to touch on this one a bit.
Yeah, no. So any equipment that is, set up for PMs or any CM work that needs to be done on those equipment, we collect that data and then make it, and it's attached to the equipment because the work orders were generated out of that, right? So it's visible here. It lists all the work orders that were created, and then you can go back in there and browse it, open it up, and take a look and see what work was done for this equipment. And this, we also present this on a dashboard to show, equipment maintenance and what PMs were done on which equipment.
Yeah. And then we have some supplemental data, right? So this is some of the activity that I know Chathu and Vishwa are kind of going back and trying to bring a lot of this information forward from historical record purposes.
Right.
And this is where they'll capture that info. Vishwa, I don't know if you want to touch on that.
In our current system, we didn't keep any of the supplemental records, so we thought, and we did always have, data for equipment information that we needed, and we thought it would be good to start capturing it as you go forward. Right.
Perfect. And then if there are SOPs related to this piece of equipment, they would be available here as well, right? So we have all this kind of relational data model in place. We'll bring those records forward if there is a relationship.
Nice.
Speaking about SOPs, if we jump down here to this menu, you can see we have these documents kind of listed by location. This was requested by SVCW's users for this structure. If I do open one of these up, you can see we have some details about the SOP itself, related process functions, the document, right, that can open right from this record, what process area relates to, and then any kind of activity. If somebody notices that the procedure has an error in it or the document needs to be updated, that communication can happen right here on this record. And I believe Vishwa is the approver of these changes when a new request comes.
Yeah, as people are using these documents and viewing it, and if they go through any instructions or manuals or SOPs and they see that they need changes or updates because it's outdated, they can provide their feedback right on the app, and then it gets routed to myself or some admin or supervisor that can go in there, review it, make the changes, review it with the team and approve it.
That really ties into how we allow information to come into the system so we can validate it kind of in real time, right? So nothing is outside of the scope, right? Nobody wants to get a surprise email with, hey, I got the new document here. And it's like, no, it should be in the system, right? So, so we give that ability to certain managers of the EAMS platform with this bulk uploading tool, right? So if I have content, whether it be a video, an image, what have you, I can, select the documents that I need to bring into this system, hit next, classify it here, right? You can see, EJ, we have video, right? So as videos come in and get related to these assets, they would be labeled as such. In this case, I'll just call it a drawing. And if this document relates to more than one asset, right, we can make that relationship and yet only keep one copy of the file, photo, video, whatever it may be, whatever content it may be. SVCW is really just feeling this out. There may be future iterations to this, but that's not a problem for the platform, right? So they'll have the ability to change and alter these features and functions as they go. Chathu, I was going to touch on the name builder piece of this and maybe how it relates back to projects.
Right.
You want to run through this with me?
Yeah. So each project. So I think I went through how we develop the equipment register really early in the process. So we are speaking on the linear generator project right now. So as you can see, we've developed the equipment register. Get all the information that we have early on, but then when the submittals come in, we will populate the rest of the information. Nice thing is it's tracked by the project. So as the project move forward, the project manager is responsible. So in this case, unfortunately, it's me, is responsible for making sure that the equipment information is acquired. And then at the end of the project, I let Moroni is our asset management specialist. That's kind of the parent of this process. So I will let him know that, hey, the equipment registers complete, and then at that point he's able to upload the information and make it live. So that information is available to everyone across the organization. So if they want to look up O&M manual or anything, that all that information will be available.
Yeah, and I think one way to really show kind of the relational aspect of this, right? Currently, we're in the asset management system, equipment management system, and these tags are generated here in a kind of like reservation state, right? So I can create the tag, basically create the tag, validate it in real time against what's in the database, and put those on reserve, right? For every project that's going on. If I jump over to the biogas utilization project, right? This is where Chathu spends his time, right? We see that name builder project tab on this project record, and he can come here and view those asset tags he's created for this project, right? So it's nice example of where we have a PMIS system connected to an asset management system, and we're using the same data and we're validating in real time.
And before all of this, the name builder tool was an Excel spreadsheet, right? We were using that. It was a template that was created, great, idea, and it was good. But then we were creating duplicates all the time. There was always all over the place which version of Excel spreadsheet we had with all the required locations, processes, and everything in there. If you're missing something, then it was great to incorporate that into the EAMS process of onboarding equipment related to projects and all the way up to associating documents and then putting it in EAMS, making it available for all the users, right? So
yeah. Oh, remember,
and then it eliminates, definitely eliminates a lot of the duplication, because that was one of my pain points. Was I would go to load the data using my scripts into the database, and then everything would kick out, oh, you have duplicates, right? So then go back and forth with the vendor to say, hey, or the contractor to say, hey, these are duplicates. Can you rename these, right? And
it also has allowed SVCW to maybe externalize some of this effort as well, right? We're talking about streamlining. They are kind of piloting a portal for contractors to come in once these tags are developed and populate supplemental data, right? And we're looking to a future where they could start setting requirements on those data values as a accepted product from the contractor, right? Meaning, hey, I'm not gonna onboard this until all of these boxes are checked, right? So they know they have a stronger data set when they move it into production. On the operation side, everybody's getting what they want, right? And you're just kind of facilitating facilitating the process at that point, right? So,
right. And then remember that we used to get those Excel spreadsheets of all the data that was put in for an equipment. Now it all gets generated out of here as a load template format that I needed to load that data into our database.
Right? That is right.
So it's already validated. It got all the required data in it, and we go ahead and upload it.
Yeah, we don't have to wait until the end of the process to make sure that it's good to go.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Vishwa, I don't know if you wanted to just quickly touch on the work orders and how those relate. I know we did it at an asset record. I can jump over to
Yeah.
the work order
You want to
management.
cover that using Power Platform again, Power Apps, and Nexinite helped us create this work order management system that we transition off of our Great Plains system, which is, very good because it's very user friendly. We have created job plans and everything in here for PMs that, our planner will go in and generate work orders as needed, for, whatever durations they are. And also they can write up CMs in here and create corrective work orders out of this. And it is very user friendly for people to go in, update, and see what tasks are the job plans have, what tasks they need to do on a PM, and they're able to, um, work on those tasks. They can make comments at it, and as Ken is showing, they can attach pictures to it. It's very user friendly, which was very hard for us to do when we were using Great Plains.
Yep.
That is so cool. The photos and
Yeah.
helps explaining quite a bit.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more in those more photos in there, Vishwa, as we've been looking
Yeah.
through. So
Yeah, and then same thing with photos, and you can upload videos and pictures and drawings or anything like that as mechanics and operators are working on these PMs, right? Or CMs. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think we'll just kind of wrap it up with reporting, right? So we use as it's licensed at SVCW, we use their Power BI tools to connect to all this data that we've gone through, right? Whether that's on the project management side, whether that's on the name builder side, the asset management, and the work orders. We look at all that data set in its entirety and can produce reports that are beneficial to Vishwa and Chathu's team at SVCW. So this is one example of active work orders, right? So everything we were just kind of looking at in all those lists is now summarized in this dashboard. I can just look at the correctives, right? And see, which one of those are pending or are active and have been assigned. I can even shrink the time frame up, right? So if I want to go back or forward and filter those values down, I can do that right from the dashboard. Some other dashboard specific to metrics that they wanted to see in app is all open work orders by status, and then aging work orders, right? So kind of anything 30 days or older, because those will get the priority. So these are just visualization cards within a model-driven app that you can point at those data tables to create these visuals. Pretty straightforward. And they could add other values in here at any time, right? So that's how the system was architected. So if they have other severities or classifications that they want to add, they can go in and add those values. They show up in the system right away, and they're rolling it out, right? So very, very flexible, scalable, and user-friendly platform. And there are managers' views, right? Supervisor views that they have in the system as well. I think I showed some of that early on. If you come up here, there's a ton of views. So if I actually had work orders assigned to me, when I logged into the system, I would see only the stuff that relates to me. If I'm a supervisor and logged in as a supervisor, I would see different values and data in these views. So it's really tailored to the person logged in and what's assigned to them.
Yeah, they can look it up by function to say, oh, I just want all instrumentation, all, maintenance or operations or, controls. They can filter it that way too. It's all set up in the system.
And then, going into the schedules, right? I think this is another important piece, right? Is what job plans are ready to schedule, which ones are overdue, right? This is a good way for them to kind of keep track on what's coming up, what the frequency on these service items are. It's been really, really simplified for the crew over there versus other scheduling tools that you'll see in other systems like Great Plains or Infor. This is really been boiled down to the basics, right? Of what's actually needed in a scheduling tool. Well, I think that does it for the demo today.
Thanks so much, Vishwa, Chathu,
Yeah.
and Ken for the excellent presentation.